Welcome to the Unapologetic Podcast with Kaitlyn hosted by LadyBoss. This is the space where women rise, own their power, and stop playing small. We get real, we get raw, and we get fired up about confidence, health, business, and life. If you're ready to step into who God made you to be and unapologetically live your best life, then girl, you are in the right place. Let's do this.
This is what unapologetic looks like.
This is my era. I'm walking boldly in my purpose. I'm done dimming my light.
I'm done playing small. God didn't create me to blend in. I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. The old me was surviving. The new me is free.
We rise together.
Here's to living life unapologetically. Hey ladies, and welcome back to another episode of Unapologetic. Today's episode is not about bitterness, it's not about blame, and it's not about giving up on relationships. It's about understanding them. Because here's what I've learned. Strong women don't fear truth. They lean into it. Today, I'm sitting down with Deanna Romanov, founder of Divorce Like a Boss, certified family law specialist, licensed in California and Germany, former Berlin prosecutor, and someone who has guided thousands of people through some of the most emotional, challenging change seasons of their lives. But what we're talking about today isn't divorce. It's the hidden architecture of healthy relationships, why they break, why some endure, and how technology is transforming one of the hardest processes a person can go through. Deanna, welcome to Unapologetic. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on with us. So you have guided thousands of people through divorce, which is one of the most vulnerable and painful seasons of someone's life. What drew you into family law in the first place?
A history of trauma in my own family, divorce. My parents got divorced more than once. I have been divorced once. I have been observing divorce as a child, divorcing parents more than once. And I realized I wanted to be the type of lawyer who is different than how I thought the lawyers are being perceived. I wanted to be with heart, compassion, relate to people, and explain to them tough concepts of law in a way that they would understand and feel empowered. Meaning, when they're going through divorce and everything seems overwhelming, I have a talent to break things down in a way that people feel, okay, I feel so much better. I didn't know that could be so not easy and simple, but actually more or less understood. Okay, now I know what steps I need to take. And I narrow it down to 5 steps. So it's pretty observable.
Less overwhelming.
Digestible.
How did your own personal divorce shape the way you practice?
Oh, I remember when I was, how old? I was 24. When I was marrying someone with significant wealth, and I remember I was presented with a prenuptial agreement. And at that time, I was in a law school studying for the bar exam. And there were 5 lawyers on the other side, older gentlemen. I thought, well, I picked a lawyer, but most of the work I did myself. So the first thing I did, I went to the library and I found the book Corporate Prenup. And I found that this prenup was taken word by word template from this book. So I went not to my husband, but I went to his dad, who was the head of that company. And I said, well, how much did you pay for this lawyer to draft this prenup? And he hesitated and he said, well, 2,500 euros. I was like, well, but so just so you know, this is in this book. This is a template. And I'm not going to sign a template. We're going to negotiate somewhat.
Yes.
And so I put my demands out, and not to him, but to my husband at that point. And then his dad drove all the way 5 hours to talk to me about this prenup. And I remember I was so afraid to talk to him because, here I am 20-something, talking to a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, negotiating my prenup, and the labels around the prenup were, oh, gold digger, or you shouldn't be negotiating. Look, every wife before you just signed this prenup, so why don't you just sign? And I knew better. I negotiated a prenup that resulted in an outcome that allowed me to lead a better life after divorce. And I encouraged the wives in the other wives, brothers' wives, to renegotiate their prenups. And that's where I realized I got something in me that a lot of, based on my observation of other wives, didn't have. I had this fearful but fearless. I mean, I was scared to have the conversation, the critical conversation, but I still did it anyway. And I thought that quality, I didn't realize that it was a special talent, as I learned later from my mentors. But I use this metaphor for my negotiations, for my trials. So if I have a case where I see, oh gosh, I still go for it. And so that overcoming every time something that seems a bit shaky is my calling. Really drawn to that challenge. So when someone comes to my office and they have this very complex case that 5 lawyers before didn't do, and this is sort of the red flag case where you run, I get excited.
That's your challenge.
Unless I notice the client is not mentally well, but let's say if the client had couple attorneys and I hear the story, what happened and how the strategy didn't work, and my brain is like firework. I already see ideas how this can be improved in certain areas and how the strategy needs to change. The complexity makes my brain, and I get sort of excitement from getting complicated cases and simplifying them into something measurable and obtainable step by step.
And that's got to be such a relief for your clients, because divorce is an easy thing to go through, both mentally, physically, emotionally, like all the things. And so to be able to break it down for them to understand it and know they have someone who understands it and their brain gets excited and they can breathe has to be such a relief for them.
Yes. I remember even a couple years ago, I got a case where most lawyers wouldn't take. And I, by default, thought to myself, I will not take these cases. So it was a venture capital case, including carry interest. Just by saying it, it's already a whole technical thing that requires experts. And that divorce went on and on for 8 years. And I'm proud to say we resolved it in a year and a half. And the moving pieces were really a huge puzzle to work with different professionals and puzzle it all together into a settlement. That was something.
That's incredible. From 8 years to a year and a half in your hands, like that's awesome.
Right.
So I've heard you talk about how you've been able to realize relationship patterns, predictability, and relationship breaks. When did you start seeing those patterns in relationships?
Well, as a lawyer, I don't really focus too much on patterns and relationships. I focus on what is underneath of the moving emotional force. So, for example, if a client comes to my office filled with anger, anguish, or guilt, then it would be really helpful for me to know, although technically it's none of my business because I'm not a therapist, I'm not trying to save the marriage. However, someone who is blamed for something they did, being unfaithful or violent or absent or whatever it is that causes the guilt will later cause me a problem and the client, because the client will make decisions out of that feeling. So clearing up what is actually going on, or if it's someone who has been betrayed, they will not be happy with 50-50 because internally they feel they deserve 90%, 100%. They just want to swallow everything and destroy the other person. And so that emotion is also going to be leading in the litigation. When feelings are bigger than the logic, then that's where litigation starts to become more about being right, winning, destroying, than actually getting resolution. And so I got very skilled in recognizing the patterns of the emotional dynamic to see how to approach the client in a way that they can hear me and shift from that emotion towards more. And sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not saying I have superpowers, but I do notice these currencies in their emotional state, and I get to work with them. So sometimes I get to listen for an hour until the client feels like I vented. Now I can talk. So sometimes it takes hours to get through clearing the air first. So emotions are, I would say, the leading force of divorce and how clients handle the divorce. So the less emotionally attached they are to the outcome, the better the outcome is going to be.
That makes sense, especially because we're such emotional beings, and it's not always the best way to operate, especially in a situation like that. I've heard you, in some of your newsletters and blog posts, I saw you reference the hidden architecture of a healthy relationship. Would you say that's almost that emotional piece that you were just talking about when it comes into their case? Is that kind of part of that architecture?
So the emotional piece is what I was talking about when I notice some decisions are being made out of. I'll give you another example. A client who divided assets after 20 years received X amount of dollars, and the other side received X amount of dollars, and they both don't work, but yet the higher earning spouse wants to buy out of spousal support to give 1/3 of their estate just for one reason, so that they don't have to deal on a monthly basis sending the support amount. So you can see how emotional level of I want to be done, and I get it. When I was going through divorce, I didn't want to litigate. I wanted to be out and done, and I didn't care about how many million of dollars I would leave behind. I just wanted to be free. And that piece of freedom sometimes costs a lot of millions of dollars to some people.
That's being a client, I feel like that would be a hard decision to make is, do you just want to be done, or are you willing to take that journey? Because we look at it as we want to close that door. So many emotions connected in there.
And sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's about, I learned it at the beginning of my career because I was so oblivious to the fact that people would fight over little things, yet spending more money on attorney's fees that exceeded the very little thing they were fighting about. And then someone told me it's called negative attachment. So when they're going through divorce, they are attached to each other through negativity. It's another form of attachment. And now that I have it in my lens, I call it out. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I say, you have negative attachment. Don't fight over this little couch, spending tens of thousands of dollars. Buy a new couch.
Yes. And so I'm sure you have the client that's like, you did not just tell me that. And then the clients are like, okay, you're right.
Well, I don't say it the way I just did. I adapt to the client's emotional state of mind. Of course, I know this couch is very important to you. It's sentimental value. And yet we will be fighting over this for the next 6 months. Let me break it down how much it's time and cost, opportunity is going to cost you. For example, if someone is making a lot of money and they are not going to be able to go and work because they will be thinking about their case, they will have to appear in their case. Couch is just an example. It could be anything, could be one issue, could be custody related issue that is not necessarily 50-50, but something more like, oh, do I fight about right of first refusal? Or do I fight about, I had a couple fighting over, there were 18 things in one motion. And one of the items was paying $60 for half of the swimming lesson for one of the children. During custodial time of my client who didn't want to take the child to swimming lessons because the other side overbooked the child for their custodial time for whatever reason. Could be because they cared about the child or they didn't care about my client's time. So we don't know. But so we had a hearing about that. And so you can imagine it wasn't about the lesson itself.
No, not at that point. Well, that's a lot of extra resources for a $60 swim lesson, right?
Yeah. And future lessons and future extracurricular activities. And yeah.
That's the principle there. So, with all the divorce that you've guided people through and all the emotion pieces of it, have you been able to find like an architecture of the foundation of like a healthy relationship?
I wrote a second book that I haven't published, more recognizing the red flags before getting married and during the relationship, and how to either to avoid the relationship or how to manage what is and improve, whether it's through couples therapy or through communication skill or relationship classes. Did I notice a tendency? I notice people when there are many different scenarios, but I noticed lately clients coming to my office where they have forgotten, they just forgotten that they're married. So they have children, and I was so shocked. I had a young man coming to my office with, I thought he's in his 20s. It turns out he was 35, and they had two children, and they're getting through divorce. I'm like, what? You just got married. What is going on? And then he goes to explain that these two children, and she stopped working. She's taking care. And I was like, when was the last time you had a date with your wife? When was the last time you hired a nanny? And he goes to say that actually they never, in the last 5 years, had a date. They never hired a nanny. And this was such a devastating news to me because, and I asked why, and he said, well, she doesn't trust anyone. She doesn't trust any person to leave children with. And they didn't have family support. They didn't have parents who would be able to help. And so I felt that relationship fell apart because really they got exhausted. They just got exhausted from working, taking care of the children, sleepless nights, feel underappreciated because maybe he works too much, because it's just so avoidable. And I feel before entering any relationship, and especially marriage, especially having children with someone, to do some personal growth, to choose relationship first, because the relationship is going to be foundation for not only the couple, but a mirror for the children to see when mom and dad, or mom and mom, dad and dad, when they love each other, this is how I would like my relationship to look like. And when both are exhausted, and unfortunately, I have way too many couples going through divorce when up until the fifth birthday of their child. It just, and
That's the time.
so I tend to, I tell myself, what I procrastinate, delegate. So if I procrastinate to have a date, then I delegate it to someone, help with nanny, help with accounting, whatever I don't like doing, delegate, because everything will chip away from confidence, from energy, from feeling myself. So I notice when I also am a mom of a 5-year-old, and I see how easy it is to get work, home, mom, wife, And so taking that time back and actually say yes to one night sleeping on my own is making a huge difference.
It's incredible that change. I can't even say my husband, because I know I've been guilty of it at times too, where we feel like like the things we don't like to do, we don't like to do them, but we still feel like we have to, or we're failing. And that's just it's like you're explaining, like it's the wrong mindset to have, because it just because we don't like to do it doesn't mean we need to do it. We can find a resource that helps us with it, so that way we can show up in areas we love and for the people we love. But like my son's not going to notice if I didn't make his lunch. He loves school lunch. But I put that pressure on myself of feeling like I failed him if I didn't make it, you know? And it's that added pressure in those relationships we don't add without needing to.
Right, right. And so when me and my husband got married, we made an agreement that we will always come first. Our relationship is always going to come first, which means going on vacation sometimes once in 5 years without a child, or going on dates from time to time, allowing someone else to take care of our daughter. So letting go of control, which is another layer of self-growth. So I feel a lot of relationship could have been or could be saved if there is effort into personal growth, if people put some effort into it to realize, okay, what is my part? I'm reading right now a book about codependency, and I notice how some dynamics, and I have experienced that with my parents, myself, the codependent and narcissist, when they come together and then this is how it builds how many relationships I have seen in my office where they were absolutely mirroring the same type of relationship they observed as abandoned child, and then they stepped up and became the woman or the man of the home, and then how that spilled over into their relationship where they realize, hold on a second, I'm working, I'm earning money, I'm doing all the homework, I'm driving. I mean, they take on so many roles that they collapse. And then when they collapse, they file for divorce, but they forgot they created the monster themselves. You know, they come to my office and say, how dare he or she didn't work for 20 years? I'm like, how dare you didn't notice it?
Yes, how dare you? Like, you did not have the conversation. Like, it's a partnership, right? You have to have those conversations,
Yeah.
Who's care of the
And
house?
I
Who's
have
gonna
been there. I have seen it. Maybe I am in it right now without noticing it, but I am actually aware and I see when things like that are happening, and
Mhm.
letting go of control, getting a therapist, getting whatever resources it takes to get out of that paradigm matrix, whatever you want to call it, and step into, okay, what would my life look like if I really enjoyed it?
Oh, I love that. What would my life look like if I really enjoyed it? It's beautiful right there. It's being able to have those conversations, being self-aware, like you said, and that personal development and prioritizing your spouse and having those hard conversations. Because it's so easy, like you said, work, mom, kids, all the things getting in the way. But how easy is it to take an hour once a week to spend time intentionally with your spouse?
Yeah, think about it. I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about a case for an hour. How can I make this case go smoother? What strategy how many times do I sit down and think, how would I like my relationship to go smoother? What gifts, what vacations? So that's a practice. And how many times do I put myself as a VIP on my calendar? I have all the clients on my calendar. And so it takes conscious effort, especially for people who are trained to be the rescuer or caretaker, whoever is listening, to put on the calendar me time, whatever that is, even if it means to sit and just do nothing and think about how could I improve my life.
Sometimes that quiet space is like the best space, just doing nothing. My brain doesn't like to shut off. So, like, the things that happen in those moments are pretty miraculous, I would say.
Yeah, that's when miracles happen. I sit down and I journal and I write down things I would like to accomplish in the next 5 years. And then I have a journal like this. And so it's 5 year journal. I go back 3 years and then, oh, everything is accomplished on that list. Yeah, I got to create a new list.
I love those journals and like looking back and seeing, what you've accomplished or the growth you've had personally, professionally, in your relationships. It's amazing how much can change in just a few years, especially when you're intentional about it.
Yes, and one thing I learned, writing things down, it's not enough because I thought when I was, I don't know, 20, being married, being in abundance, being this woman, and I imagine I didn't attach a feeling to it. So when I had everything on that list, I had the opposite feeling. I was not happy. I wanted divorce, but everything was on the list. Everything I asked for was on the freaking list. What's wrong with me? So I was very confused until I learned in different classes that the goal or whatever I put as a wish needs to be attached with a feeling I would experience when I get that. Then, and of course, putting motion, putting action, then I will know when it's there, even if it's a little bit different.
I love that. I know for me personally, I feel like I'm a checklist person and I check it off and I'm on to the next thing. And I never take the time to tie that emotion to it. So I love that what is that emotion as you're setting it before you even get there so you can experience it?
Yeah, yeah. Imagine you say, well, I would like to be on vacation, and then you're on vacation fighting all the time because of something didn't go your way, or you know what I mean? It's just, and then when you connect to that feeling, like, I'm here. I don't care about the rest. I remember seeing a bride being so upset that something got on her dress, like little coffee stain, and she was crying in the bathroom. And I was looking at her and I was like, this is like the best day. The
Yes.
best day. and you focus on this. So, and I feel like, and I don't mean to be judgmental. People have feelings and all of that, but that when being married, if being married was on the list and connected to the feeling, then all these little stains don't have the power.
No, they really don't. I actually, when I got married to my husband, I remember I had a emotional moment where I snapped. I was not impressed with something that happened. And I look back and I still kind of regret it because I'm like, that was a day for me to enjoy and celebrate. And yes, it was a great day, but like I focus on that one little moment of that took my attention away from the real matter of the day. And it's one of those things where I look back and I'm so bummed out, but I'm able to look at life now and I hear brides or hear wives or talk or critique their husbands about little things. And I'm like, I'm in this mentality now where it's like I pick and choose my battle. If my husband wants to go get a mohawk, Lord bless his soul, you go get that mohawk. Like it's gonna drive me, but you're gonna do it to drive me nuts. So I'm not gonna let it bug me. It's part of the fun of our relationship, right? And so
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
I was like, pick and choose your battles. Like, is that really something that you want to be worked up and mad about for the next however long? A haircut. Come on. The coffee stain on your wedding dress.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. My husband learned to manage me as well, and sometimes I get into this want to be right mode, and then he turns and says, "Do you want to be right, or would you like to stay married?" And I say both.
Yeah,
Uh,
great conversations to have. I feel like if you can't even have those conversations in the hard times, then I mean, you're the expert. Would you say when you can't have those tough conversations openly with your partner, is that a huge thing you see lead to divorce?
yes, I have sometimes still a lot of clients coming to my office not knowing what the finances look like. If there are debts, I had a couple. Well, I had a client hiring me, and part of the prenup is to include all assets and debts from both parties. And that's when my client learned the other side had huge debt. So that's for people who have a prenup. Imagine they didn't have a prenup and they would be married finding out about the debt or whatever that is that they haven't discussed. So I feel not telling everything that is out there. For example, sexual preferences. If someone wants to be not monogamous and marrying someone not saying that, expecting something, then also another divorce I had where after the wedding date, he said, well, I would like to be in an open marriage. Well, wouldn't it be nice to know before getting married?
Yeah.
Of course, it led to immediate divorce and credit card, just not having crucial conversations. And I'm sure that these conversations are being avoided for the sake of peace at the moment, but it creates a war at the end. So it's just not worth it to hide the ball at the beginning. I would rather, if I were to date, I would make a list of all my sins and all my qualities. Probably would take it to the next level.
I always say that because I came in with the list of what am I going to put up with and what am I not, and you're going to take it or leave it because, yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the things on my list was how is my date treating my dog? So I remember one guy when my little puppy jumped on a chair, he just swooped it and my dog fell on the floor, landing safely, but still, that was needless to say that was the last time I saw this person because I thought, well, how they treat someone who is smaller than them is going to be showing a lot in other areas of life. And so paying attention to things that are important.
Yes. Yes. I love that example right there, that story, because it's true. It's like they can tell you all the right things and show you all the right things, but you see them have a different interaction. I mean, that's where you really start to see the true colors. Because for you, they're putting on the show.
Yeah, especially the first 6 months. I would say first 6 months to a year. When people get married and have children in the first 6 months or 1 year of dating, that's when I get the nastiest domestic violence restraining order cases with custody and never ending divorce battle. People just don't know each other.
I, I'm sure you've seen it too. Is I can't tell you how many people I have met or come across that they brought children into it hoping they would fix their relationship problems. And that's a whole nother can of worms. But it's like, look for those red flags because it's probably not, maybe it's something that doesn't need fixing. Maybe it's just not that right match, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it's an honest conversation where often someone wants to have children and they see the red flags, but the desire to have children is so much stronger than dealing with the relationship problems. That's another layer of divorce patterns I have noticed, that I have experienced that in my own friend before she got married. We wrote a list of qualities that we saw in her partner that she told us about she doesn't accept and is a deal breakers. And then she just brush it off, had two children, and going through divorce over these qualities now. So
That
sometimes having children is more important.
that urge. And and on the flip side, I bet your friend, those two children are like her world, right? And so yeah, divorce is a hard thing, but like she wouldn't change it for those kids.
Yeah. And I have a couple clients like that, and I have compassion. I understand. I have seen it. I can feel it when that desire is so huge that overcomes everything, every problem. It just like a tsunami. Doesn't see anything until the water subsides.
Yes. So AI, I'm going to kind of change the wheels up a little bit. AI is kind of taking over all the things. We see it all over social media and businesses and schools, all over the place. Have you seen an impact with AI in the legal field?
Yes.
You laugh. I'm like, oh,
I have people suing each other with hallucinations. Clients who don't have money to get a lawyer, they draft declarations with AI. I have a trained eye because I work with AI like with a hostile friend every day. And I see how it looks, the heading, the line. I see how ChatGPT drafts things. I see how Grok drafts things. And I see hallucinations when I see the case law that the other side provides. I see that, well, actually, it's not true. Or some statements. It's a powerful tool, and it's improving, and it's becoming more efficient to be used by everyone, lawyers or clients. But it's like a car. Not knowing how to drive it could cause a lot of damage.
yes.
So it's a tool, and using it responsibly, knowing when to stop, knowing when to take off, knowing where to turn, it can help, or it can create a lot of damage. And right now, people who are not equipped to use it, not equipped to put correct prompts, people are sometimes biased. They want to hear what they want to hear. They go to an attorney, they pay a lot of money, and they hear things they don't want to hear. And with AI, people tend to find a way to hear what they want to hear. And the problem with that is that then they file things and then they get sanctioned for it because they file for frivolous things. They feel emboldened with the fake knowledge. And I think right now, and even with lawyers who got sanctioned for citing hallucinations and insisting on keeping them in the public file instead of correcting it. I think it's improving. And with AI improving, also people improve how to use the prompt. So if I were to give advice, is the right questions to learn how to prompt, how to use AI correctly, to not be so biased. Instead of asking, how do I win this case? How do I prove this case? First, start with, is it a good case at all? If you were a judge, would you have a set of facts, this and that, and you are, let's say, a client who asking a question to AI, first, I would prompt, number one, to give an assignment who AI is, your top-notch judge in San Francisco, in this department, making a decision. Here's the set of facts. What would you decide? What are the weaknesses on one side? What are the weaknesses on the other side? And give as many facts as possible. And I would say refrain from being biased, to give a little bit better facts on your side. Yeah. And just balance it out and then build slowly your case. Yeah.
That's great advice, especially the giving the facts piece and removing the bias. Because if you're, a husband or a wife going through divorce and you go to ChatGPT, my guess is you're probably inputting some of that emotion in there too, which is then skewing all. the information. And
That's right.
hard to pull that out when you're going through something like that.
Yeah. Citing fake law, citing fake cases, letting AI being unfiltered and just put it all into the court file is just very, very visible. And judges notice it. They warn clients and people and say, if you do this again, we will sanction. Now, probably there will be some law soon that says, it's sanctionable conduct to hallucinate. I mean, the standard applies for lawyers. It's a sanctionable conduct, but I haven't seen clients who are self-represented being sanctioned yet. And I think that's the point is approaching where it needs to stop.
That's scary because I can only imagine you being on the other side of those hallucinations and just being like kind of sideswiped by it. And yes, we can look up and prove that it's a hallucination, but when you're in a courtroom, that's a whole nother world of wait, what is this?
Yeah. People get so excited because AI has a tendency to confidently say what it is without correcting itself. And then when I say, well, this is not true. Oh, yeah, let me correct myself. And I'm sorry, you amputated the wrong leg. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks for noticing.
I've seen that response before. Oh, very good point. Wait a minute. Please, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I think I've asked I have never drafted a legal document and actually I lied. I've done like something simple like a bill of sale kind of legal document in there. But besides that, I've never gone too crazy in ChatGPT with legal documents, but I've asked for advice and I've noticed that it'll give like the little asterisk of this is not like legal information or qualified legal information. This is only my feedback. It's almost got that disclaimer on it now.
Yeah, because people sued ChatGPT for giving wrong legal advice.
Don't blame them a bit.
I'm sure
I'm
it
sure.
happened.
So, Deanna, I thank you so much for being on today. We have talked so much about divorce and the patterns you've seen and the hidden architecture. We've talked about the foundations you've been able to see that really help craft long-term relationships and having those tough conversations even before getting married. And then we've also dived into AI of divorce in the legal system. So we've covered all sorts of things. As we wrap up, my audience is primarily, let's say primarily, they're all women. We are all lady boss women who are here to live fire-fueled lives and lives that excite us. And I know legal items, whether it be divorce or a lawsuit or a car insurance claim, it all gets nerve-wracking. What would be your best advice for someone who might be going through something that involves the law and they're kind of just on edge about right now? I know it's a very broad question, but there's so many aspects of the law and we just get
for some reason I'm thinking about a doctor. When I went to a doctor and get some diagnosis, the first thing the doctor said, don't Google it. Don't Google it. So if I see a client being anxious, and in fact, I talked to a client who said, I didn't sleep for 2 nights because I didn't know this answer to this question. And the problem with AI would give you an answer you want to hear, but I would still talk to an attorney to get clarity because knowledge is power. Knowledge will give some clarity, and clarity could potentially be better than the uncertainty. And so even if the knowledge is not so pleasant, at least there is a way for a solution. But I think the nerve-wracking part about divorce is when people don't know and they start hallucinating like AI, thinking about things that could happen that are in reality not in the realm of what will happen. And so what I did, I actually wrote a book called Divorce Like a Boss. So after doing it for so many years, I realized people ask the same questions when they are at 2 a.m. Seeking answers. So it's on Amazon, and I created step by step, very clearly outlining what to expect in a succinct possible way without going with the fluff, just very to the point, breaking it down. How would divorce from A to Z look like? And also, of course, YouTube channel with 500 videos about all kinds of topics. So if someone would like to call me and talk about spousal support and they booked half an hour, suggest to just watch a video called Ultimate Guide for Spousal Support at 17-minute long, and then call me for half an hour to ask more specific questions, to run the calculation and clarification on some issues related to spousal supports. Getting informed first. I think that's my general rule.
And we'll make sure to link all of your things. I see that we've got your YouTube link, your Instagram, your Facebook, all of it. So we'll definitely link those in the show notes. So for you ladies listening, go check out her YouTube or Facebook, all of that. And whether you're going through something or not right now, it's great to have this in your toolbox because you just never know, right?
That's right.
So, Deanna, I've got to ask you one final question before we wrap up. How are you living life unapologetically today?
I learned how to enjoy my life. So I feel breaking through the patterns of my own self, trying to help every single person who calls me, realizing when my help is actually damaging, when my help will cost people more money than they're seeking, and learning to say no to clients when I know my help is not going to help, learning to say no to my 5-year-old. It's the biggest challenge. Just my personal challenge is to recognize when to enjoy life, just to stop and go and do something fun, because I tend to work so much and I love what I do.
Yes, I love that. I do it too. I get stuck at my desk, but then I forget that, our littles are only little for so long, right? And so we've got to be able to stop and enjoy that. And as you were mentioning earlier, it's not following the plan, like giving up that control, even for just a little bit.
Just a little bit every day, just a little bit. Just
Yes.
overcoming my own personal challenges is feeling rewarding.
And that is so rewarding because as you notice them and you see them and you can tackle them, I feel like that's when that weight comes off your shoulders and you do get to fully enjoy life. Deanna, thank you so much for being here and bringing both strength and empathy to this space. Ladies, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who values strong foundations. Share the YouTube links. Go follow Deanna. And remember, unapologetic doesn't mean reckless. It means courageous. And ladies, we will see you next time. Bye.
I'm showing up as the woman I was created to be. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be real. One woman's courage gives another permission. I'm done waiting for someday. My time is now. I'm walking in faith, not fear. God's plan for me is bigger than my fear. No more hiding who I am. This is the real me, and I'm not apologizing for her.
Thank you for tuning in to the Unapologetic Podcast. If today's episode fired you up, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new one. And hey, leave a quick review, or sharing this with a friend helps us reach more women who need this message. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep living unapologetically.